What's up? I'm Mr. J. This is W.A.D. MTG. Back with another video. Today I'm going to cover my results of my second RCQ out of standard retirement. I did one last Saturday. I've just been really busy, man. Works, I'm always busy because I drive trucks, so I'm just always busy. But I also just got my divorce finalized on the 5th, so that's, been taking a lot of my time and energy. And also I've been getting everything ready to finally buy my house because now I'm finally divorced. After 15 years of legal separation, I am finally divorced. But I went to my second RCQ last Saturday, and it's not like I'm going to just stop making Magic content or whatever because it's been a few weeks, but I gave up going to see a female last Saturday just to play the RCQ, and she assured me that she's going to give me some. So y'all gotta appreciate that a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And magic often comes first. Magic often comes first, even in my busy lifestyle. I got so much going on, so it just took a back seat for a couple weeks as far as me making videos and short form content, meme videos or whatever. But let's get to it. I went to another standard RCQ last Saturday, and I took a upgraded version, I guess I could say, of the Golgari mid-range deck that I took to the last RCQ that I did like a month ago. Now the meta has changed a little bit since then. We had MagicCon Chicago. Everybody's seen the results of the decks in MagicCon Chicago. So the meta that I seen at the second RCQ that I went to coming out of standard retirement was a little bit different than it was a month ago. But it was essentially the same, right? Like there was a handful of big decks. There's a deck that I hadn't seen before. And basically there was a lot of people running Overlords, Domain Overlords. There's a lot of people running that. I mean, like probably a quarter of the field was running Domain Overlords. And people, I mean, it's just cutthroat Magic, right? Cutthroat Magic at RCQ trying to qualify for the RC. So I get into my first round. I played. I didn't finish very well. Spoiler alert, I didn't finish all that well. I actually did worse at this one than I did a month ago, but not by much. So the first round I played, it was either Rakdos or Jund Sacrifice. It had a little bit of self-discard element to it, had a little bit of Delirium into it, and it was a kind of a sacrifice build, sacrifice shell. I didn't get to see much of the deck, and the deck itself wasn't that impressive to me because I ran it over so damn quick. I 2-0'd him in like 20 minutes. I play fast Magic. Even when I'm playing control, I play fast. I'll play draw go. I think of my moves ahead of time. I process information very quickly. So I play Magic fast. I don't really need to sit there and scratch my head like a lot of these other competitive players while they're trying to run through what's going to happen in the next couple rounds or whatever to make their plays. So I play fast. So I didn't see much of that. That it was either Rakdos, like I said, or it was either Rakdos or Jund Sacrifice, self-discard, Delirium. So it kind of was like a hodgepodge of those different themes. But I didn't see much of it because I ran it over 2-0'd. Into my next match. My next match was interesting. I got to play Domain Overlords, and it was a verbatim copy of the deck that just won the Pro Tour Championship in MagicCon. It was verbatim. Every single card was exactly the same, including the sideboard. So let's get into that a little bit, shall we? The first game, man, is that deck impressive. The first game, the guy would manage to get out multiple up the beanstalks. I removed one of them, but it didn't matter. He had so much overwhelming card advantage that he ran me over super quickly and very efficiently. By the time it got to the mid-range grind session where my deck thrives, he had so much advantage already that I basically had no chance. So I made him beat me because I was like, okay, well, I've got a really good sideboard, so I'm going to make him beat me and go through the motions. I'm not going to concede because after I sideboard, I believe I can sideboard well, and it might take time. It might go to time. So it didn't go to time. We still had probably about 10 minutes left by the end of the round. He did beat me 2-0, but the second game took quite a while. So I ended up sideboarding like 12 cards to go against Domain Overlords. It was all like mass enchantment removal, cease and desist, tear asunders, things of that nature, just to be able to try and slow him down, get him off of his game plan, ensure that I remove the Zur before it could do some damage. So I did manage to do all of that, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. That deck overwhelmed the fuck out of me. Like, he played Beanstalk, up the Beanstalk, I removed it immediately. Played a second one a little later on, I removed it immediately. It did not matter, because by the second and third time he was able to play up the Beanstalk, I think the third time, he 1 for 1, then he 2 for 1, because the second time he responded to when I removed it, with a card on the stack that he also was able to draw from. So after his second Beanstalk, he was only up 1 card. He drew from the Beanstalk, it replaced itself. Drew from the Beanstalk, it replaced itself. I removed the second one, he responded, was only up 1 card. But then he was still able to land a third Beanstalk, and I didn't really have the removal for it right away. I ended up removing it eventually, but it didn't matter. He get so much advantage off of that third Beanstalk. All his avatars coming in, impending. I was able to keep him off of Zur, but that didn't make a difference either, really. It didn't really make a fucking difference at all. That deck is just so hyper efficient in the late game strategy. He hit me with quadruple fucking, what's it called? Leyline bindings? Quadruple leyline bindings, bro. Quadruple fucking leyline bindings. And the game grinded out long, but I still got ran right the fuck over. Domain Overlords, the best deck in Standard right now. So, after round 2, I was 2-2, right? And I started feeling bad about it, because I'm like, damn, even if I can make top cut, there is no way I'm putting in that much work, even with sideboarding the hell out of my deck. There's no way I'm putting in a whole lot of work versus that deck. And like 25% of the field was running it. So round 3 comes along. I play Esper Pixie. So I kind of have Esper Pixie's number, but with the deck that the Golgari deck that I had, it's really a toss-up. It's really a toss-up. Either I can aggro my stuff out quick, remove their key pieces, put the pressure on them, and win, or they kind of grind me out and slowly end up with so much advantage that, just like the other deck, it's hard for me to deal with. So even though I'm sideboarding well against Pixie, and I'm sideboarding in the Baloth, I did manage to play that for free a couple times in the game. I lost 2-1. The last game was very, very close. It was a coin flip. On the last game, he had got me down to like 5 or 6 life, and he had presented lethal on his next turn. So I had one more turn. He was at, I believe, 11 life. And I was looking at my field, and I was looking at his field. He couldn't block, but he had flyers. So he knew that if he swung out on me the turn prior, that if I swing out on him, I didn't have lethal. I was showing like 8 damage or something on board, and he was at like 11. So he didn't really care. Maybe I was showing 7. Yeah. I had a Baloth, and I had a Mosswood Dread Knight. So I was showing 7 damage, and he was at 11. So I had a Tyvar stand in my hand. So as I'm going through and trying to figure out what's going on, I realized that he used a Caretaker's talent on his previous turn to return this town ain't big enough from his graveyard to his hand. So I'm thinking, okay, that's his plan. He had 2 open mana. He's going to bounce his Caretaker's talent, and he's going to bounce the Baloth, and he's going to play this town ain't big enough. So I go into combat, and I'm thinking, all right, here we go. I'm going to swing out. And with the mana I had available with Tyvar stand, I was presenting 12 or 13 damage. I believe it was 12, and he was at 11. And as I'm counting it up, and I'm like, all right. So I swing. He plays this town ain't big enough. I respond. He bounces his permanent. I play Tyvar stand. I swing in and take the victory. Right, and at this point we have both won a game, so I'm like, here's my chance. Walk away with a win against another Esper Pixie deck, and this deck was a little bit better. He had pulled out Kaito on me a couple times, so Kaito gave me quite a bit of problems. It's just such a good card. And it gave me some issues. He was just swinging in with them, getting more value, drawing more cards, bouncing his shit, all that stuff, right? So I go to swing, and he didn't play This Town Ain't Big Enough. In his hand, he also had Nowhere to Run. So he played Nowhere to Run. And even if I respond to Nowhere to Run, by tapping out all my mana and playing Tyvar Stand, gives my creature hexproof and indestructible till end turn, and ++ equal to the amount of mana I pumped in, showing the 12 damage that I was going to present to kill him. But the way that Nowhere to Run works is it enters first. And once it enters, then you can target the creature. And it also says creatures don't have hexproof, and they can't have ward. So it didn't matter that I pumped my creature, because This Town Ain't Big Enough saved his life. It gave my creature -3/-3, which he actually targeted the Mosswood Dread Knight, so I had to respond and give the Mosswood Dread Knight the boost, or it would have died before damage got in. And even though he had hexproof and indestructible, Nowhere to Run took away his hexproof, and it still gave him the debuff, the -3/-3. So that saved him. I was able to present 12 damage. 12 - 3 is 9. He was at 11, and that left him with 2 life, and I was dead on board. So that's how round 3 ended for me, in a 2-1 loss. So after round 3, I'm sitting at 3-4. Not looking good, right? Not looking good. And heading into round 4. And at this point, I've got to win out, or I've got no chance, even with my tiebreakers, of making the top cut. So I started to relax a little bit, because I'm almost in garbage time here, and I was getting my ass whooped. So we go on to round 4. Round 4, I played a deck I have never seen before, but it was sweet. That deck was sweet. It was Hellraiser Dragon combo. So it was an Izzet deck where almost every card in the deck allowed him to draw 2 and discard 1. Variations of that type of card, where he's drawn and he's drawn and he's drawn and he's drawn, and discarding, and Fear Missing Out, and a few other cards that allow him to, like, self-mill, kinda, and put cards, or discard, and put cards into his bin, right? And it works kind of like a Delirium deck, but once he has so many cards in his graveyard, his dragon, his Hellraiser Dragon, I forget the actual name, it's something Hellraiser or Hellraiser something, it comes in, and he gets to remove 3 random cards from his graveyard, and he'd shuffle it up, and I'd pick 3 cards, and he gets to cast one of them for free. Well, all the other cards in the deck allowed him to copy a creature on the field. It was some Bloomburrow card that used a bunch of paws, and there's a blue card, and he, had 5 different paws on it. He'd pick 2 or 3 different modes, copy his dragon, draw, do some other bullshit, and then the copy would come in, and the copy would allow him to do the same thing. So that deck was stupid impressive, just the way it turned its wheels, and it operated very, very well. It did run several Planeswalkers, a Chandra, and who was the other one? A Ral, Otter Ral, and so it was playing very, very well, and consistently doing the thing that it was trying to do. So where he could present 3 or 4 dragons in a turn, and then use one of his engines that helped him draw was an enchantment. He paid 1, give him all haste, and swing in. So that game was exceptionally close to. As much as the wheels were turning in that deck, I was able to land a Shieldred on a couple of different games to grind his life total down with all the drawing that he was doing. I was able to stop a couple of his plays where he tried to unsummon my creature, and I responded with a Tyvar Stand. So it actually was a good matchup. It was a good matchup. The games were very close. There was a little variance involved, because in one of the games that he did beat me in, I drew like 5 or 6 lands in a row. All I needed was some sort of action to close out that game, and I didn't get it. I got nothing but lands, and he was able to beat me. And then I beat him in 1 when I was on the play, because I lost the die roll. And then it goes to game 3, and our sideboards are looking good. I boarded in extra Maelstrom Pulses, So that way, when he started making copies of his dragons, on Maelstrom Pulse, kill all the dragons, he's got to start over. But he's refilling his hand so fucking quick that he was able to do that like every single time. Like every single time was able to pull 2 or 3 more dragons out. After the game was over, he told me where he found the deck list. He also was like an ex-Yu-Gi-Oh player, so we kind of bonded over that a little bit, and he was ex-military as well. So he was a cool guy. I liked that guy. He was a good competitor. He was a cool guy. We had a lot in common. He was a little younger than me because, you know, I'm 39, and he was probably in his mid to late 20s. But we had a lot in common, and we bonded on a lot of levels. So he kind of showed me how the deck operated and explained that it satisfied his Yu-Gi-Oh mind, where he's just performing a fuck ton of game actions and grinding out until he can get the same setup over and over and over again. It was almost like an old standard deck from back in the day that used Sun Titan. And they would just reanimate the Sun Titan and pull out their whole board again. You'd board wipe them, they'd do the shit again. So it was almost like that. It didn't matter that I could wipe his dragons on several occasions, because he was able to just do it again. And then his random hits, his variance for the random hits was amazing. I'm like, how the hell do you keep doing that? He's like, because there aren't any misses in the deck. He's like, the cards that I'm discarding, that I keep using, are the cards that I'm using to refuel. So when I exile the 3 cards, it doesn't matter if they're random. These random cards just allow me to continue to take all these extra game actions, which push the game plan forward of the deck. And he told me that the deck itself had also had a top finish in a big tournament. And it was one specific pilot that was able to pilot that deck to a win or a big top finish in a very large scale tournament. But he ran that deck well. He ran that deck real fucking well. And it ran smooth as butter. It was cool to watch, man. Even though it kicked my ass, even in game 3, it was close. It went back and forth. But he was able to give his creatures haste and swing in for lethal that I didn't see coming. He swung in for like 16 fucking damage, made 4 dragons in a turn, and gave him haste. And then was able to swing in for 16 damage and kill me. And I had another Maelstrom Pulse on my next turn in my hand, and I had an Obliterator on the field, and I could have fought one of the dragons, made him, he had a couple value pieces, made him sacrifice the value pieces in a couple of his lands, and then Maelstrom Pulsed, kill the rest of his dragons, swing through, stabilize, and that probably would have won me the game, because I also would have been able to drop another like low value creature or something like that on that turn, and that probably would have won me the game. But he was able to give him haste, and he won. That was a 2-1 loss for me. 2-1 loss for me. So now we're 4 rounds in, and I've got 4 wins and 6 losses. Not looking great. Not looking great. Going into the last round, we're definitely in garbage time at this point. I performed really well, but it was like a couple of plays. I don't think I really made any like play errors or play mistakes where I could have been better as a pilot to change the outcome of how those games went. But it just so happened I got outplayed. There's variance. I got outplayed. The top level decks were just performing that much better than mine. They're just performing better. So, you know, I got to give the pilots credit, the guys that made the top cut in that particular RCQ, because they were good, man. They were good. The competition was fierce. These guys were real good players, and they were playing with top-notch level Pro Tour decks. Nobody played. That's the one complaint that I have. I'm going to these tournaments because there isn't much at like the local standard level. You got to go to like an RCQ or a big tournament that can qualify you a store championship or something like that, or you don't see anybody playing at all because everybody plays Commander, which makes perfect sense because Commander is awesome and Standard is very try-hard. It's very sweaty. So is Modern right now. Modern's very sweaty right now as well. So that's kind of the way it worked out. And in the last round of Swiss, I played against another Gruul aggro deck. And my deck is specifically designed to beat Gruul aggro, so it went well for me. I won that one 2-1. That guy was really cool too. When we got to the match, we both talked about how our days went real quick while we were shuffling up our decks and what decks we seen and how our decks performed against those other decks. And, you know, he had a rough day too. He had a rough day too. He was running, Gruul aggro, mice, low drop creatures, fucking monstrous rage, turn inside out, all that stuff, right? And I won the first game, and then we go to the second game, and he was on the play. And we start giving each other a little more information and playing like back table, kitchen table magic at this point, because we're just trying to test our decks out and see what we're doing, resolve our mulligans, and we kind of just talked our way through it, right? Like, he had an opening hand, and he said, I'm going to keep this opening hand, but it's greedy. I don't really want to keep it. And I looked at my hand, and I had 3 Unholy Annex, I had a Duress, and then 3 lands. And my colors, they're good lands. And so I'm like, I got a greedy hand too. I'm going to keep it too. Because I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to dress him right away, get rid of whatever pump spell he's got, and be able to run out Unholy Annex into a demon, into another Annex, into a demon, and that's, I got action all game, is what I'm saying. And I can sit there and overwhelm him with card advantage. Well, little did I know that his hand was a little better than mine. He had a bunch of combat tricks, and then topped into creature. So he was able to like triple combat trick me in the beginning, hit me really, really hard. By the time I'm getting out an Annex, and drawing into, my Mosswood Dread Knights and stuff like that, my low value creatures, he had me very overwhelmed. I did have an extra couple turns in there because he ended up playing, I have like Clockwork Beastie or something like that. It's an artifact 3/3 that can't attack or block until he has what's called Delirium. So it's a different variant of that deck. I haven't always seen a lot of that card, but it threw me for a loop because I didn't sideboard, because I knew my deck was designed to beat it, and so I didn't sideboard. And then I ended up with Go for the Throats in hand when he had Delirium, was able to swing in with 2 Clockwork Beasties. So he got me in that game, and then the final game went about as I expected. And I was able to remove all those pieces early and get my bigger mid-range threats like, Obliterator on the field and swing through with Obliterator. And that gave him all kinds of fucking problems. He couldn't deal with it. So I won that one 2-1 to finish my day. What was it? I won 2 of my losses. 6, 2, 2, 4, 5, 6. I was 6 and 7 is what I was. I finished 6 and 7 on the day. And I was middle of the pack. Because a lot of people dropped. They lose, get in the loser bracket, and they're playing a good deck like, Domain Overlords or something. And one guy was playing an awesome, just spectacular version of it. It was almost as good as the other guy's deck, but the other guy's deck was verbatim. So his deck ran a little smoother. But the other guy made some play pattern mistakes, and I seen him go to one of the other guys. I was watching. There were several people who played that deck, but I was watching him play because my rounds were ending a little quicker because I play fast Magic. And, I'm watching the grindy end of his game when it goes to turns, waiting for the next round to come up. And the other guy that I was, talking to and stuff that was playing Overlords, that wasn't the guy that I played, he made some, like I said, he made some play pattern mistakes. He didn't animate. He did end up having 2 ties out of the day. So he knew he wasn't in top contention, and he dropped. So a few people were like that, where they had got a couple losses early and left, and a few people got a few ties and dropped and just kind of hung out for the rest of the day. So that's how my day went at the RCQ last Saturday. Like I said, I gave up some Punani to go to that RCQ, so it was important to me. I thought I had a shot. I did a little worse than I did the last time, but it did spawn something good out of it. So after seeing the decks that I seen and how these top level Pro Tour decks were really just smashing the fuck out of me, dude. Like, they were really just overpowering the hell out of me. I decided to concoct a new build. And I don't build meta. I've never built meta in all my Magic career. In Standard, I've never done it. I always build anti-meta, or I build something outside of the box, or something that's not a popular deck or a tier 1 deck. and I try and take a tier 2 deck into tier 1, or I try to take an original idea and build it so anti-meta that it's designed to smash the tier 1 decks. So that's what I did with Golgari. It was positioned to do well against two or three of the top 5 decks, and it's performed well. But with a little bit of variance and the way the meta actually looks, it only really performs well against some sort of mono red or Gruul aggro. It performs well against the Delirium builds and the Azurius Oculus or Jeskai Oculus build, because I'm removing cards from the graveyard. And it's performed well against Pixie. But it hasn't, it appears that after all the times that I've played Pixie actually has a little bit of an edge on that deck. A little bit of an edge on that deck, even though it could have went either way. And my deck even performed well against that Hellraiser Dragon combo deck. I almost beat him too. We're talking about one play pattern mistake from him, I win that game. So the deck was performing well. It did well. It could potentially get to like that top bracket of decks, but it's not going to win. It's not going to win. It's not gonna do anything against that Domain Overlords deck. It's too good. The deck's too good. I'm trying to do mid-rangey things, and I'm trying to do aggro things to keep pace with the mice and the other aggro decks and blow out some of the decks that are a little slower. It kind of fucks up control decks as well. And then as the game gets to the mid-rangey type things and late game plays, that Overlord deck just does everything I'm trying to do so much better. So much better. So I wasn't going to win. Even if I make the top cut and manage to get lucky with variance and beat that Pixie Max matchup and then beat that Combo Dragon matchup, I'm still not going to beat the Overlords. That's still not going to win me the tournament. So I've got a new idea. I'm going to try it. I'm going to order a few cards that I'm missing, and I'm going to try it. It's going to be Abzan this time, Abzan. So I'm going to run an Abzan shell. It's going to do similar things to what I'm doing, similar things to what some other people are doing, and it's basically an I Hate Your Deck deck. So shout out to I Hate Your Deck, one of my favorite gameplay channels, because my next deck I'm naming after that. It's going to be I Hate Your Deck deck, right? So the entire deck is going to be built anti-meta, the entire thing. So prison cards, cage cards, the cards that are like silver bullets for each one of those top decks, specifically the Overlord deck. The key component of the deck is going to be Mother Machines, but I'm not going to be doing the exact same thing that the Overlords deck are doing, because I'm hating out that deck. It's going to be more of a high control variant of an Abzan list with, like Rest in Peace and stuff to shut down some of these other graveyard synergy decks, Delirium decks, combo decks, etc., that are doing things from their graveyard. So that's going to be what the deck basically is, just a hate bear deck. I'm going to use black removal that's equivalent to the white removal, so I can get rid of the mice. Graveyard hate and things of that nature, like Rest in Peace, to shut down the Delirium and the combo shit out of the graveyard. These cards are main boarded, and main boarded 3 or 4 Mother Machines. I haven't decided yet. I haven't put the list together. I'm going to put it together on like Mana Box and Goldfish a bunch of hands and kind of see how I feel about the deck and what I think that it's going to do well, and how I think it's going to perform against Domain Overlords. And talking to other people, they're like, oh, we'll run Azurius Control, that's the answer. Well, Domain Overlords runs fucking Cavern of Souls, so if you go full control, that's not really going to get you anywhere versus that deck. And you still have to be able to remove the Zert every single time he plays the Zert. And what are you doing about the Beanstalks? What are you doing about that massive card advantage? So I think Mother Machines is the way to go. It shuts down all of that. And I'm going to build a deck around that. I hate your deck. That's what it's going to be. I hate your deck. I hate your deck. I hate your deck. I hate your deck. Fuck all y'all. That deck. That's what the deck's going to be. And when I get it put together and I try it out at another tournament, I'll get back on here and do a overview of how that goes. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another round in before this season ends, because the next season starts like the weekend of Tarkir Dragonstorm's release. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get one more shot at RCQ with the nature of how much I work and the fact that I'm trying to buy a house. I got a lot of going on. I just got divorced. I'm talking to a new chick. So I've got a lot going on, man, and we'll see. But that's the plan going forward. It's going to be I hate your deck, and it's just a, hate bears deck. Everything in the deck is going to be in the deck for a specific purpose, because it's a silver bullet to shut down one of these top meta decks. And then, I've pretty much got it all theory crafted, but I haven't got it, in practice in a list digitally where I can go fish it. But I'm going to do that soon. And that's really all I got for the coverage of my last standard RCQ on Saturday. And I'm Mr. J, and this is W.A.D. MTG. I'm out, y'all. Peace.